if you had to decide which is a bigger problem facing Black America, racism or a lack of fathers raising Black kids, which is a bigger problem?
Fathers. Fathers, bro. It's fathers.
I would say what impact?
What?
Repeat the question.
What?
If you
How
had
are
to
you thinking
decide in
about
a
this?
binary choice, which is a bigger problem facing Black America, racism or a lack of fathers raising Black youth?
I think it's a combination of both.
This guy is brainwashed, bro.
To the idea of white privilege is that inherently in our culture of society, somebody that has white skin color in this audience has extra privileges that you as a Black individual do not have. Can you list what those are?
Sure. When FDR employed the New Deal to counteract the Great Depression, this came with resources that was allowed it to white people. Banks denied 99% of qualified Black applicants while also accepting 99% of white applicants.
But today in 2025.
Okay, today in 2025, as I alluded to you, they've done studies in psychology where white-sounding names receive jobs or callbacks more than black-sounding names. They did the two names. It was a white young lady named Anna Scott, and it was a Black young lady named Lakeisha Washington. They both put in 80 job applications. Lakeisha Washington received 9 callbacks and received 75 callbacks out of 80.
That's a good point. I actually, that study is debated, but let's pretend it's true. Do you think it's racism or something else?
I think that answer is multifaceted.
Because let me make the best. Sorry to interrupt you. If we live under a status of DEI, and people are getting jobs that they're not qualified for, wouldn't then an applicant then assume maybe that an applicant might be there based on DEI, not on merit? It actually creates more racism where it doesn't exist.
So DEI is not about going and grabbing some random person of color and saying you therefore are qualified. DEI is about considering other qualified applicants.
Well, let's take Airline.
So this whole debate is about systemic racism, and it's about white people getting more privilege than Black people in society. The reason why this whole discussion is a problem and why this whole discussion will not solve anything is because the majority of white people are not living under privilege. The majority of white people are regular, believe it or not, they're regular people. Like, if you're white watching this, or even if you're Black watching this, I just want you to list 2 struggles you deal with in real life. 2 struggles you deal with. And I promise, if you read someone's struggles, you will not be able to determine what race they are because we all struggle. So when you have a young Black man coming on the podium saying that white people have all this privilege, when a white person hears that and they're like, well, hold up, my kid, I can't afford medicine for my kid, or hold up, my kid goes to private school, or hold up, I'm dealing with health issues, well, hold up, I haven't gotten a raise in 2 years. When a white person hears that, they're like, I have problems in my life and nobody's coming to save me from these problems. So when you have your problems, how come you get to complain, but I don't get to complain? That's what's happening in these type of videos. If I'm wrong, let me know, but let's continue.
Airline pilots. United Airlines wants 40% all of their airline pilots to be women or people of color. Why does that matter? Number one, because I want a qualified airline pilot, not a person of color airline pilot.
Understood.
So you agree. But number two, there's only so many airline pilots jobs. So when you say we want 40%, by definition, then you have to discriminate against a certain group to get another group to advance, right?
Understood.
Because there's not unlimited amounts of spots for airline pilots or air traffic control or surgeons or whatever position. So when you say that we want to have a quota, that then you have to say we're not going to prioritize a certain group. Let me tell you what I believe, and maybe you might actually agree with it, because I think you do. What we believe as conservatives is that skin color really doesn't matter that much. We care about character and merit. We want a country built on what you bring to the table, not how you look.
Exactly. And America started out with that based on merit, and theoretically, it was supposed to work. In practice, it did not, which is why you have these different programs of affirmative action, DEI, and the Civil Rights Act, because they were not working. You cannot ignore that these policies were created to counteract racism. A counteract to racism is not racism in itself.
Well, I reject the premise, and I will say this. If you do something racist on top of something racist, that doesn't make the second racist action good. Because if you discriminate against white people to say that we're fighting racism, then that's not a good idea. But instead, I think you can agree that when we build a society like college admissions or job applications, we should say no quotas and just merit. You agree?
I agree.
Then you're against DEI, because DEI says quotas.
Yeah, let me finish. I agree to a certain extent. So when you mention about discriminating against whites, of course, I don't agree with that.
Well, that is DEI, just so we're clear.
Right, and I'm going to say it again.
Cool, all right.
DEI was created to offset racism. We left it up to majority of white America to include people of color or qualifying credentials. They would not. So my argument is that you're saying it's reverse racism. My argument is that it needed to be there to counteract racism. Sounds like we need to find a different solution for both parties.
I have a great solution. Stop talking about race all the time. Race doesn't mean anything.
I think
Because I look at you not as a black guy, but as a human being made in the image of God, and I want to know what you bring to the table. Are you good at the job? Are you better than your competitor? Because let me just pause for a second. I just want you to hear out what we believe. Is that when you talk about race all the time, you start to resegregate society based on tribes, and you lose this idea of e pluribus unum, all made in the image of God, out of many one. And yes, we have made many mistakes in our past, but we were getting closer as a country in my childhood as being not obsessed with race. We've become more race obsessed over the last 10 years, especially the last 5 years, which is why we're seeing the anti-DEI movement, which actually ends up hurting people of color more than previously. And I guess the biggest question, though, is that why should race matter at all? Shouldn't we just de-emphasize it?
what I wanted to first respond to was the notion of stop talking about race. I don't agree with that notion for the simple fact that talking about things bring awareness. Awareness leads to actions. Actions produce change results. I just want to use your logic and flip it on you. Imagine if you had cancer and your doctor was like, let's just stop talking about it. It wouldn't, in the same context that racism wouldn't go away.
Got it.
Cancer wouldn't go away.
Let's accept that premise.
Not.
Do you think racism is a top 100 problem in America?
I think it is. I haven't considered the other 99 to give a thorough.
Crime, fathers not being around, obesity, suicide, mental health issues.
For sure.
Anxiety, cost of college, an open border.
You know what's crazy? If you want to talk about it so much, you need to consider where it stands in society. And I know that sounds insensitive. I stopped caring. I don't care. If you're talking about it, if you're pushing it on people, if you want the future generations to understand this at a high level, you need to understand where it sits in our hierarchy of issues, especially in the black community, because you're only talking about racism in reference to black and white people, because when we bring up this discussion, we don't even mention other races because they also deal with racism, by the way. But for the sake of this argument, we're talking about black people and white people because racism is binary, apparently. I'm just joking. So if that's the case, where does white on black racism fall in the hierarchy of American issues? We're 13% of the country. Where does this issue fall? You don't know, which tells me you don't really think about it because you probably don't really care, or it doesn't really affect your life that much. Let's be honest. It probably doesn't affect your life that much.
Russian-Ukrainian war, nuclear proliferation, artificial intelligence, the rise of China. All that's probably more important than racism. So
I'm not saying it is or isn't.
But however,
you're kind of changing the subject.
No, I'm not. But I'm to use your premise. If I have cancer, that's the most important thing happening to me.
Correct.
Racism is not a cancer on America. Racism is sin, and we'll never get rid of sin because we are broken, fallen creatures from our Creator, and we rebelled.
Right, so but you do not solve issues by not discussing them. If you and your wife I'm not sure if you're married, if you and your wife have a disagreement with communication, and you tell her, hey, let's just stop talking about our problems. The problems do not disappear.
I actually don't think it's an issue nearly as much as you do. I think we've made it a bigger issue.
I'm not making it a bigger issue. I'm just discussing. This is just my talking point.
I'm saying generally. But let's just say, and then I do want to get your definition, though. What is racism?
Racism is a form of feeling superiority. It is expressed through discrimination and through the legal system.
Oh, fair enough. So we agree that's wrong and it's terrible. So we should get rid of practices that actively discriminate against anybody based on race. Can you be racist against white people?
Can I? Or
yes.
black people?
No, can a black person like yourself be racist against a white person?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, good. We agree, and you should be applauded for that because some people on the left think you can't be racist against white people.
So
not all.
Just to speak for black people.
That's quite a statement, but sure.
You don't speak for all black people.
Well, let me speak for the majority who are of my opinion. So when blacks who, let's say, have disdain for whites. It is not based in racism. It is based in cause and effect. It is normal for anybody to hate a suppressor. It is normal for anybody to hate their. It is normal for anybody to hate their murderers.
Bro, but that's under the premise that white people are oppressing black people. I think we sometimes forget, and I need to bring a lot of people back down to reality. The average white household makes what, $75,000 per year? And I'm sure a lot of people fall under that watching this video. That means there are a lot of really rich white households, and there are a lot of poor white households. In order to oppress people, you need to have power. Either systemic power through laws or just money. The majority of white people have neither. They have neither. Nor do black people. Because when you talk about oppression in day-to-day society, you need some form of money or power, and the majority of people live very average lives. So where am I getting? Where's LFR Jojo getting? If an average person, which most of us are average, watch this video and they're like, what are you talking about? I just live a normal life. I drove a Prius to work every day and I make $54,000 a year. How can I literally oppress you? They can't. They literally cannot oppress you. And black people being racist because they have this idea that white people oppress them is just downright ignorant. And racist. It's no justifying it. It's just ignorant and racist.
America went to war with the British Empire for being suppressed and oppressed. So my concluding point is that a lot of the hate that can be perceived from blacks as white is hating oppression, not white people. Because if you substitute our oppression for a Mexican, if a Mexican oppresses us, we therefore hate him as well. If a black man oppresses us, we therefore hate oppression.
I think that's a fair point. Let me ask one final question, if that's okay. If you had to decide which is a bigger problem facing black America, racism or a lack of fathers raising black kids, which is a bigger problem?
Fathers. Fathers, bro. It's fathers.
I would say what impact?
What?
Repeat the question.
What?
If you
How
had
are
to
you thinking
decide in a
about this?
binary choice, which is a bigger problem facing black America, racism or a lack of fathers raising black youth?
I think it's a combination of both, but for sure.
This guy is brainwashed, bro. This guy is brainwashed. You know, some of the biggest issues affecting my family ever stem from a man not being there for a woman. Meaning, I don't know my grandfathers. I don't know any of my grandfathers at all. They're alive. Well, one of them passed away. One of them passed away, but one of them is alive. Neither were there for my grandmothers, and they weren't there because of racism. They just don't want to be there. They just weren't there. Those issues just snowballed into more and more and more issues, bro. And if I was to look at my life, my personal life, and I was to compare racism versus lack of some father figure in either my parents' lives or any relatives' lives, which one had the bigger effect? It's not even a comparison. Lack of fatherhood had the biggest effect of any issue in my entire family. I'm talking about extended family. The biggest. It is no comparison at all. So the fact that he's trying to sit here and it's really upset me. Trying to compare the two, it's no comparison at all. At all.
We'll say black because blackness affects blacks more than you ever affect me in my life.
I'm sorry, so you would say racism or the black fathers?
Fathers.
I agree. So now we have agreement. Do you agree that the last 5 years we've talked more about racism and way less about dads staying around with the women they impregnate? Would you agree that's probably a problem?
I agree that's a problem amongst all races. When you say we, who is
No,
we?
no, no.
Well, as a society, but it's especially a problem in Black America. If you had to guess, I know this is like Trivial Pursuit, but approximate, what percentage of Black youth have a stable father around?
I wouldn't know those numbers, sir.
It's about 30%. So that means that 2 out of 3 Black kids do not have a dad around.
I would have to fact check that for myself.
That's fine. You can
I
look it
watched
up.
A few of your
You
videos.
guys can
pass off
look it
this
up on
information.
Grok or ChatGPT or Perplexity or the AI of your choice, right? And so here's our perspective as conservatives, because this is a colorblind truth. See, as conservatives, we apply things that are true to all human beings regardless of their skin color. That if you don't have a dad around, you're more likely to commit crimes, go to jail, more likely to basically be on the outer fringe of society. When 2 out of 3 Black youth don't have dads around, that's a big, big problem. And it creates a cycle of violence and poverty. That's not racism, that's culture. And the cultural problems happening in Black America, the white people are not doing that to Black
Do we
America.
not look at the sources of poverty? When I spoke about redlining,
Bro, this is the problem, bro. This is the problem. You have a white conservative man trying to actually give information to a Black man about the biggest issues in the Black community. And rather than him saying, you know what, you're right. We do need to be better fathers, which is just true. It's just true. I don't care what nobody says. I don't care if you fight me tooth and nail. It's true. He's saying, well, are you looking at the statistics of the poverty? What does poverty have to do with just being there for your kids? You can be broke and be there for your kids. They aren't there. You think Black women don't deal with poverty when they're raising children? You think poverty only affects Black fathers? You don't think it affects Black mothers? It obviously does. You don't think Black women go to the same schools as Black men? Have to go through the same grades, get the same education, raise the same kids? They do. But when we talk about issues and we talk about fathers, there's this lack of accountability that comes to the men, where they, rather than taking accountability, they say we have to look at this outside source because it's not us. It can't be us. It can't be us. It has to be someone else. This is the problem. This mentality is the problem.
that was literally whites forcing Blacks into ghettos because they would not give us houses.
No one's going to defend that.
We cannot ignore that.
No one's going to defend that. But
We cannot ignore who created poverty, who created the ghettos.
Let me ask a simple
It's dis-
question.
It don't matter who created it. It don't matter. That's what I'm saying. It don't matter. Let's say you have a child and the teacher comes to you one day and says, your son can't read. Is it your fault your son can't read? Possibly, but it doesn't matter whose fault is it if your son can't read. It don't matter. You got to fix the issue. It don't matter. If you have a child and your child gets in a car crash and totals the new car you just got them, it wasn't your fault they totaled the car, but it don't matter. You got to pay for it. That's how life works. A lot of our issues are not our faults. A lot of the issues I have in my life are not my fault. But it don't matter. And that's the problem that a lot of these people have. You still got to deal with it. And this lack of accountability is what's destroying our community.
Continuous.
Well, hold on. Just because you're poor doesn't mean you have to leave the woman you impregnate.
Correct.
That does not transcend every racial group. I want an answer, though, because I'm curious. Why is it that so many Black men leave the women that they impregnate, more so than any other group? Why is that? Is that the white person's fault?
No.
So maybe the biggest problem facing Black America is self-actualized,
Right. I'm not arguing,
external.
I'm not arguing what's the biggest and smallest problem. I was just asking you
No,
about
no, but
white privilege,
No,
because
but
it exists.
for sure. But what I'm arguing is that as a society, we had entire years of corporate apologizing, television advertisements talking about racism in America, and zero attention saying, hey, dudes of all colors, don't impregnate women and abandon them because you're cowards. Why hasn't anybody ever said that? Because that actually would fix the country.
What makes you think that hasn't been said amongst the Black community?
Because bro, I'm actually getting annoyed by this video. I'm getting annoyed by this. I do videos all day about issues that Black people say, that they say is important, that they talk about, and this is never said. Ever. It's never said. And you think I'm wrong? Go through my entire channel with every video about Black people. See how many times you hear it. See how many times you're not going to hear it. It's always about what white people have done to affect us. Always, every single time. It's not said. You're not even saying it now. You don't even want to say it. Because rather than saying what the truth is, it's easier to blame white people. It's easier to blame other people for our issues. It's always going to be easier. And you know what? What's the point, bro? He's going to be stuck in his ways regardless. It is what it is. My name is LFR Jojo.